Welcome to Always Almost There, a Goose podcast series on We Move Through Stormy Weather. My name is Ryan Storm.
I'm Brian, also known as Jive Goose.
And I'm Neal.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Kev.
The five of us are here today to break down the most recent leg of Goose's tour, the first half of winter 2022.
We're going to take you show by show, breaking down key moments and jams as we continue to track the evolution of the band's sound. Now, I know the five of us have been very much looking forward to this. Throughout the whole tour, we've been talking about looking ahead to recording this. We're really excited to be here for the inaugural Always Almost There episode. So without further ado, let's jump right in, shall we?
Here.
We're going to start with January 26th in Tempe, Arizona. First set that goes Atlas, Lead the Way, Jive 1, Butter Rum, Electric Avenue, SOS, and Slow Ready. What do you guys think of this set?
Well, I tell you, the Atlas was a unexpected opener. I felt like there was a little bit more space than usual in this jam, and I started to hear a couple things that stood out to me as just a little bit new, a little bit different, that I ended up hearing a lot more kind of throughout the tour. One of those was Peter playing with a little bit of a Bobby-ish tone, just that almost like industrial sounding, tone. And then, that, and then kind of the a little bit more open space were things that I definitely started to hear more over the next few weeks. And then, the other big thing about these early soundboards that came out is Trevor is turned up, which was awesome.
Great. That's a great trend that's been happening this tour as well. Trevor is way up on the soundboards. While we're talking soundboards, shout out to Naveed Quarterman, a.k.a. NQ6, helping Peter out with that mixing now. That's a good point about the Bobby tone. I think Peter is doing a much better job at the industrial Bobby tone than Bobby does. So that's a plus.
Shots fired.
Oh, yeah.
Starting off, that's not that much of a hot take. I think a lot of people agree with that.
Yeah, I think, Peter's been trending towards that tone for a while, and you hear it a lot on this tour. We talked about it when we were doing the bracket. Like, I really love, like, Peter's kind of Bobby-style tone in the Eau Claire Drive, where it's, like, basically like he's, like, channeling Bobby. So, definitely shows up here in this set quite a bit.
It's grown on me too. I didn't like it as much last year, but it's really starting to grow on me. Like, and also differentiating a lot more from Rick's tone than what he had with the PRS.
Yeah, fun set. In terms of musical moments, I think kind of feeling it out, Lead the Way. Generally, we've seen it open a tour lately. Can think to Suwannee, a couple other early shows. A good set. I think just like a nice mix of songs. Looking at it on paper sort of has just a typical Goose feel. You got some songs maybe you don't love, like a Butter Rum, throw in a cover like Electric Avenue. I thought the SOS into Slow Ready was kind of cool to start. Sort of that set the tone as well. We saw a couple times this year so far where they've cut songs in half, leaving sort of the middle of the song, segueing into something else, and then sort of breaking tracks apart. So more of that. I like that setlist variety.
For sure. And that Electric Avenue, great cover pick for the first set, I think. But this one has a little bit of an extended segment. It really has this like kind of churning feel to it that will come back in some Earthling or Alien jams from later in the tour. Kind of a similar kind of groove, at least to my ears. And your point about the splitting songs, I love the SOS Slow Ready thing, and then they would reverse engineer that later in the tour. I think that was a really cool idea. And then they absolutely dropped the gauntlet, I think, for a tour opener in the second set. We've got the debut of Dr. Darkness to open, followed by a pretty solid Elizabeth into a great tumble, a Western Sun, Dawn to close, and then a Mustang Sally encore. This tumble is one of my favorite jams from the tour.
Just before we jump to the tumble, I just want to point out the trend of the first few shows of the tour, starting out debuting a new song in that second set. How cool was that?
Yes.
Good point.
Yeah,
Kevin.
yes. Yeah, so this was obviously the first one at the first show, and they do it for the first 6 shows of the tour. So yeah, definitely don't want to skip over that for that. But also, I mean, this was a good new song. Obviously we had only heard "Born" at this point, and so initially I didn't love Dr. Darkness. It's grown on me a little bit. You can hear, at least I can hear some, Rick's Tom Waits kind of songwriting influence.
For sure.
It is a unique original song. But yeah, first of a bunch. Nobody knew what it was. That's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing about Dr. Darkness, when I first heard it, I was starting to question whether or not it was a cover, because it sounds so much different than like a regular Goose song, right? Like I can think of no Goose song that actually sounds like Dr. Darkness. So in that way, Dr. Darkness is pretty cool. I'm pretty psyched about it, and like excited to hear once they kind of break it in a little bit, what it's going to sound like.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And then, yeah, I did skip right to the tumble because I love this tumble so much. But there was a 20-minute Elizabeth, jamming for the first time since 2020. Great to see it, return to jam vehicle status this tour, because it's such a reliable and great jam vehicle. I know what stuck out to me, obviously. Peter switched to clav from guitar very early on in the jam, which usually signals in songs like this that they're going to take it deeper when he makes that switch, because I think while Peter's guitar playing this tour he really seems to have expanded what he's doing during long jams, I think a lot of the time, if he switches to keyboard, he has the intent of utilizing that more expanded sonic palette that his keyboard rig allows, as opposed to his guitar. But this is a really great jam, and they pretty much play the Slave to the Traffic Light jam, which is, it's Slave to the Traffic Light. It's great.
Yeah, that's a great point, Ryan. About, Peter. I agree. I think his guitar playing has definitely improved, talking about his rhythm playing and sort of how he supports Rick, and sets the space for the rest of the band. But yeah, it's no denying that his keyboard and kind of piano playing arsenal of keys has just sort of really allowed jams to even go further and deeper. Like you said, sort of attack, he'll hit the clav and sort of push a jam and kind of attack and push a song out. But yeah, Dr. Darkness to start. I love the mention of that you guys said, and it definitely was a different song. I think it grew on me as well, seeing it live to end the tour. And it's very atmospheric. Like, it's got sort of a mood and definitely kind of gave the set the tone well for that set. I think front to back, pretty strong set. I enjoyed it.
One thing I noticed as we started looking at these shows and starting to pick out jams that are going to end up being on our lists and whatnot, the two things that stood out to me over and over again as I was listening to these songs were everything that you said, Ryan. Peter using all of his boards and the effects from those boards to just create space and sounds that they haven't really done before. And almost every jam there, that I'm like, oh my God, that's so awesome. What else is going on there? It's Trevor. Like, Trevor just standing out and doing his thing. So it was effects and Trevor in almost every jam that I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome.
Oh, it's like Jive was saying too. It's hard to miss him on these boards. Trevor's way up there. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, and Trevor kicked off the Mind Left Bodyist jam that ultimately morphed into the Slave jam. Which, that's a small footnote, but another thing that I noticed throughout this tour is that, and I know it's kind of cliche to be like, oh, Rick's tearing it up this tour, Rick's sounding so good, and all that type. Oh, Trevor sounded, Ben's been killing it. Like, sometimes that stuff gets kind of cliche, but I really do feel like Trevor seems to be taking the lead a little bit more on jams. Just adding his own, kind of interesting, runs and things like that. So anyway, I thought that was interesting that their first real nice improv jam of the tour of the year, I kind of feel like they had that airy jam to start out with, and I don't want to go too long on this Elizabeth because it's good, but maybe it's not great. But Trevor led him into that, and then that jam ultimately kind of took it to some cool places. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about this tumble. I think it's a very cool juxtaposition against the more bright and major key Elizabeth. This tumble, stays in that it stays in like a grimy, dark guitar groove, and you can really, this is like the first jam of the year where you can really hear that like something's different in Peter's rhythm guitar playing. He's taking more of an active role in the jams, which is really, really cool. Not just backing Rick. He's growing into his own as a guitar player in the two guitar band, which I think is really cool, and we'll hear that in other two guitar jams later in the tour. But really, the first 20 minutes of this tumble is amazing, but it's all in that last couple of minutes when they just collapse into that dark space with Peter playing around with his delay pedal and creating those weird sounds. This is the first, like evil Goose jam segment that we've heard really that of any significance. And it really paves the way for how they're going to evolve and play more full-blown evil jams later in the tour. And I remember, watching on the cell phone stream, and I remember we were all like really excited about it at the time.
Some Dark Horse teases in there too.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of Dark Horse in that jam. A lot of Dark Horse.
Yeah, I definitely, same thing, Ryan, man. The ambient effects at the end, I love it. Yeah, we will hear it more, and not to jump ahead, but the whole SOS Dawn, the split up didn't quite work for me as much. I feel like there's other ways where maybe this would work better for me personally, whether it's within the same set or what, I don't know. But one of the things that I thought is when they drop back into when they drop back into Dawn, it's that type of ambient, spacey stuff that I would love to see get put out there and built up a little bit, and then drop into that beat, kind of a la old school 2001, where Fish would set up the atmosphere. And the atmosphere itself is almost has tension to it, and then you release by dropping into the drums. That I think that's what would have been super cool with going back into Dawn. Every time I listen to it, I just feel like, oh man, that would have sounded so awesome.
Yeah,
I love the end of Tumble, absolutely.
And then the show ends with Mustang Sally,
which is and it's a fun Mustang Sally because it's nearly 15 minutes long. There's a Trevor bass solo, and it's a tongue-in-cheek joke for them at this point. And I think anytime they play in Phoenix or Tempe, Arizona, they're going to play Mustang Sally.
Well, it's the goat. I mean, it's the goat Mustang Sally.
It's definitely the goat Mustang Sally.
Before we move on,
yes.
One interesting thing about the second set is that Western Sun is like not a note over like verse, chorus, verse. And it's like kind of the harbinger of what's to come for like the rest of the tour, where like they kind of grab these tunes that we're kind of expecting a jam in, and then they're going to give you like no jam at all. And it's going to be, we're going to talk about it a ton tonight when we,
in the next show.
Yeah, well, exactly. But this is the first example of it. It's right here in the first show. And we, I don't know if we even talked about it at the time when we were all watching the cell phone stream, like, oh, wow, that's weird that they didn't really add anything onto Western Sun at all. But yeah, well, next show.
Yeah, that's a great point about the shifting focus jam vehicle-wise, for sure. And so then let's move on to the next show, January 27th, the first show of the California leg in San Diego. First set, we've got the Whales, Earthling or Alien, Mascanada, Turned Clouds, Time to Flee, Bob Don, Madhavan. Not a whole lot to talk about here. The Madhavan is very standard 20-minute Madhavan in which it's a fantastic jam, but doesn't really do anything terribly exciting. Time to Flee is a notable example of that, what you talked about, where you're expecting the big jam and then it just kind of fades after 9 minutes. And Bob Don doesn't have its outro jam on it in this
Sorry,
one.
Kev.
So nothing crazy.
No.
Criminal.
And the
Kev was not pleased.
Yeah,
I'm not pleased, but there's pancakes. Pancakes.
We're not. Do we need to say anything else about the first set?
Oh,
Well,
I've got some things to say about the first set for sure.
Yeah, go ahead,
right.
Neal. Go ahead, Neal. I do too.
that Earthinger Alien, like a lot of folks like to make fun of that song, but this is like the first example again on this tour of that song changing, right? They're taking the song seriously. It's like actually, pretty decent jamming. Like if you kind of put this side by side with like Fifth of Beethoven, like later, it's the same exact vibe. And like folks get stoked about Fifth of Beethoven, but they're like not stoked about Earthling or Alien. And I find that weird. This is it's a great first set song to get people moving. So there's that. And the transition from Earthling or Alien to Masquerade is awesome. And I can go back and listen to that again. I mean, I think a lot of folks, like I was saying before, will skip Earthling or Alien, but that's like a pretty decent transition there. And Masquerade is like one of my favorite Goose covers. It hasn't been given like a full ride like some other jams have, but like in terms of like where they go with that, it's pretty great. I mean, at the end of that Masquerade, there's like basically a Madhavan peak, right, where it gets like real quiet and then builds up to like that crazy big peak. And that must have been really fun to see live. But I enjoyed it, and I think it's like pretty good. And the flea that they played too wasn't bad. It just wasn't 25 minutes.
Right.
It was actually like a pretty good flea. If they kept that going, that would have been pretty great. And a 5-minute Bob Don is a crime.
It is
or
a crime.
A 6-minute Bob Don is a crime.
It's funny because 6 months ago we wouldn't have known anything different than a 5-minute Bob Don, but now that we've had the taste of that outro jam, we just you can't go back.
And the Madhavan, I think, is actually like a pretty good Madhavan. And like it might be my favorite Madhavan of the tour. And you guys are going to laugh at me when I say that, but
Interesting.
It might be because there's like that little bit of Dragonfly that they play like right when the jam section starts. That I think sounds really cool. And then they basically like play the middle section of Wales right in the middle of this jam. And I think I don't know. I think it's pretty awesome. And then it kind of gets really quiet for a minute, and then this is a really good example of like Rick like grasping melody out of thin air. Like there's nothing going on, and then Rick finds like a really cool jam that kind of stays out there for like maybe 2 or 3 minutes that I really like, and it's probably the coolest thing they did inside of a Madhavan on this whole entire tour was like those 2 or 3 minutes in that Madhavan, in my opinion. But yeah, I think it's cooler than bed. So there.
Pancakes.
So that's my first set thoughts.
So hey, I agree with everything you said about Masquerade. That might have been that's probably my favorite jam of this set. I mean, it's hot, The interesting thing about Earthling or Alien is, so it got played 3 times this first leg, and it was in the opener spot, the number 2 spot here in San Diego, and then the number 3 spot of set 1. So I think there's some other songs that we'll talk about this. We'll talk about kind of song placement a little bit as well. But this was one interesting one where they're clearly emphasizing Earthling or Alien as a kind of early first set. The jams have been good. And some people have made some comments as to what some of these jams sound like, but I'm not a huge fan of the song. We've gone back and forth on the composed parts, some with, some without. But there's been some nice jams coming out of them. And otherwise, the flea was kind of the no jammer like you talked about. I thought this Madhavan was fairly standard. They kind of fell into another Mind Left Body-ish type, just descending progression.
They like that.
Yeah. I feel like it's almost like a comfort zone thing a little bit.
Well, it's like the Dragonfly. Dragonfly, literally, we heard those segments like 5-6 times this tour, especially on Mount and other things.
Yeah. So
some theme.
Yeah. So sometimes it's probably unintentional, even just kind of where they've been playing, and so it just kind of naturally comes out. But yeah, I definitely think that there's, in my opinion, some better Madhavans to come.
I think there is as well, and I mean Kev keeps trying to steer us in that direction. So let's hit.
He's ready to flap his jacks.
It's
ready
time
to flap his
those
jacks,
baby.
So set 2 opens with the debut of Pancakes, All I Need, Me and My Uncle, Rosewood Heart, Moby, and Drive with a Jive 2 Jively encore. Let's talk about this Pancakes debut because it's a hell of a debut. Very different vibe to the song debuts, as you know, contrasting with Dr. Darkness the night before. Obviously, it's a much more playful and upbeat song than Dr. Darkness, and it also is 20 minutes long. I absolutely adore Pancakes. You know, I love that it's a great blue song that that Rick is singing. That's a really cool thing. And I mean, this jam is just uh, in like great Goose. You know, it's what they're really good at. They just like ride that groove and peak it, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a cool song. It's playful. It's got the, composition sort of very some good changes.
Clap.
The clapping at the beginning, which will get more crowd interaction. Saw that in Louisville live, and yeah, it's great. I mean, I think anytime, whatever band it is, right, that we appreciate and follow, fervently like this, you get a debut song and it's got some significant improv on it right away. It sort of really makes you take notice. Yeah, I think it's set the tone for the other debuts that came out, but gave them some confidence, and was really cool to see another new song, set to, and it was just like wow, and kept seeing it. But yeah, fun set. Good solid Rosewood. All I Need was short, so that was sort of a kick. I remember like right away, and we saw it again, like Neal said, the Western Sun. Some of these songs, kind of we're waiting, right? You're waiting for the jam, and then it's like, oh, and what?
There's the Me and My Uncle.
Yeah, Me and My Uncle, and I just recall that moment, just being like, this bummer. But always love a Rosewood. Moby, seems like they're
Always love a Moby.
always love a Moby. I feel like they're kind of jamming the song in right now. It's not very natural, like we saw, the Caverns debut, for instance, or in at Legend Valley, sort of unexpected. It's sort of, I felt that way in Montana too a little bit, but yeah, fun set, I think much better than the first for me. So
I'd agree with that. The Rosewood, I felt like when I went back to listen to that Rosewood again, I thought they were going to do the same thing to us, where they were just going to give us the song without the jam. And then I hung out for the 9.5 minutes there, and then it just, in my opinion, got real hot. Some Yeti teases towards the end of that song, minute 19 or so. And they just been turning the Rosewoods into a dance party.
mhm.
Yeah, they came in like real hot into that Rosewood too. Like there was a lot of like really fast playing by Rick right off the bat, which isn't really typical, I don't think. And 9 minutes in, got the first Peter Yaz of the tour, because Rick just went
Landmark
off. And then yeah, 9 minutes in, it's like Peter Yaz, which is like amazing. Generally means the jam's going well, right? I really like that Rosewood. I think it's pretty fun. The All I Need actually was pretty good too. It was like a good first jam.
Micro jam.
Yeah,
Micro jam.
I love micro jams. You guys know I love micro jams.
They're good.
Yeah, I get hooked on them. Pretty good set.
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody mentioned, but obviously Pancakes is a great blue tune.
Yes.
I did.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I also really enjoyed Pancakes. We'll talk about more of these, but at the time I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be a jammer for sure. And I like this one a lot. In terms of placement, I think this works really well as a set 2 opener. They also did it as a set 2 closer and kind of a mid-set one. Yeah, nice, fun verse chorus, and then 5 minutes, and then you're just off and running. So second half of this jam, especially, I really liked. Peter doing kind of the soundscape looping, which we'll hear a lot of on this tour. And yeah, just kind of a steady medium-paced dance party jam.
Also, great return to the song at the end. They nailed it, and they continue to nail it with the successive plays of Pancakes. But
Yeah,
that's always a plus.
Sweet ending.
Yeah. And nothing really to add on the All I Need. Me and My Uncle. It is what it is. Rosewood. All 3 Rosewoods. 3 Rosewoods so far. 3 20+ minute Rosewoods.
Yeah.
this is for me. This was probably the most straightforward of the three. But yeah, real nice. I thought this was a real nice segue into Moby, coming out of that jam, and then Drive. Just another what's going on here kind of moment. But then the Jive 2 Jively encore, which pretty solid. We're going to talk about some other encores tonight. This one was better.
This is, what? Like, if you're looking for a really good encore, this is a really good encore.
2 and Lee, how can you go wrong? Come on.
No, can't. Yeah.
And like a healthy dose of Bubble House in that Lee. We talk about Bubble House a lot, but I think somebody put it in like chat when they were playing it. I think it was Jive. It was just like Bubble House, and like I put in like Bubble House right at the same time, right in the first part of that Lee, and it's pretty fun.
They like the Bubble House.
More just vibes, I think, but
vibes. Not like they're like actually playing Bubble House, but like it's got that like kind of percussive. Like nobody's actually like soloing at that particular moment, right? Yeah. Everybody's kind of part of percussion, including lead instruments.
Yeah, which they've been getting. They've been moving in also more of a kind of democratic improv direction as opposed to just straight Rick led or Peter led, which is cool to hear in certain spaces. Moving on to LA on January 28th, opening up with the Honeybee or Homie Bee, if you will, into Arcadia. Travelers, The Way It Is, Creatures, Born, and Flowdown. To me, like, Honeybee opener. It's a Honeybee opener. Pretty standard hot Arcadia. Travelers is always cool. I love Peter's synth on it. But the set really starts to pick up with The Way It Is, which is, in my opinion, their best cover. I would be so happy with seeing them play this at every show. Like, the fact that they jam it like they do as well. Shout out to the Eau Claire Way It Is. Fantastic. And then, Creatures mid first set is a really cool thing that you don't hear very often. That's normally second set opener or mid second set. So seeing it in this slot is really cool. I think, did we talk about this is the earliest Creatures since Bingo Tour, and maybe like a long time before that because Bingo Tour was a random set list call. I think we talked about that, but that was cool. And the debut of Born, which I think blew us all away live because the studio track, the single, did not have that guitar synth build that is in the live version. And wow,
Jesus Christ!
Like, so beautiful the way they layer and get higher, and then that groove that they get into that leads perfectly into the set closing Flowdown. I was very happy.
And then we got the Born video, the other day. Just
yes,
problem Rick.
A lot of meme content out of that.
The Rick origin story.
Yes. So what do you guys got on this first set?
Decent set. I thought opening like night before Wales, Homie B the next night. Sometimes, as we've griped about, at least myself, I can only speak for, I guess, but sometimes it's sort of like, all right, let's do it. Obviously, Arcadia next. Great way to respond. Pretty straightforward Arcadia, obviously. I thought this tour, aside from the Wisconsin version, all pretty sort of standard, short and type 1 rippers. Yeah, love Travelers. It was a good set. It had a nice mix. We threw in a new song again. And then I think at that point we were wondering, are we going to get another new song, in the second set? Because we had seen it the first 2 nights. We saw a new song in the first set, and you're sort of like, oh, okay. Yeah, and Born is really cool. I like the sound that they're finding with that, finding some different spaces, taking some risks. Like you said, Ryan, the synth, really Peter sort of opening up some of his arsenal, and Flowdown, I guess, brings the energy to close it. So, yeah.
Flowdown works really well as a first set closer, I think.
High energy closer, it's a good choice.
Yeah. So I have a question for you guys in this set. So, Ben fucks up in this set, right? Like, in fact, like they say that. So in that Arcadia, can you hear it? Because I've listened back to that Arcadia, like, I don't know how many times, trying to find the part where Ben screws up, because like right after he finishes, well, Rick does the whole part where like Ben's just fine when he's singing the Arcadia lyrics, and then after Ben is like, "Oh, thanks, Jeff, for saving my ass on that one." I cannot find the part where he messes up. It sounds fine to me.
He's just that good of a drummer.
Right. I guess that's my point. I just thought that was like a really cool part of that set where like the whole band acknowledges that. Peter laughs, Rick sings about it, like Ben talks about it after the song, and I think it's imperceptible to like anyone who's not like a ultra serious drummer. But I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. But otherwise, like at first that Travelers like is awesome. I can listen to Peter play the synth part of Travelers like all day, every day. Like I just love his synth work. And then Creatures was cool. I think it was probably the coolest Creatures they did on this tour, which isn't saying a lot because I don't think they really went crazy with Creatures. But this one, they did the Tarantella Napolitana jam, like the very like typical like Italian
spaghetti.
Yeah, right. And that one had everybody wondering for a while. I know I did. Like I was like, what was that? And then kind of looked it up the next day, and I thought that was pretty cool. It's pretty noteworthy.
And I definitely don't want to be too negative Nancy here, but one of the things I did notice with the songs like Mist and Creatures that use that voice modulator that Rich likes to use, it sounds a little off.
It was bad, actually. I remember that one this was probably the worst the whole tour. But
I will say I will say I've noticed recently that with the voice modulator, like Rich is using it a lot less than he was in something like 2019. Like if you listen to a Wisteria from 2019, he's got the auto tune on throughout that. Now it's nowhere to be found in Wisteria. So it's good that he's phasing it out a little bit, saving it for the songs like Creatures or Mist, where I think it fits a lot better. I don't think Wisteria really benefits from that. And so hopefully they figure out whether it's with the voice modulator or the way they're mixing it. But hopefully they're able to sort that out soon. B, what do you think of this set?
I think this is actually a fairly strong set by comparison to individual sets across the tour. Not a whole lot to poke holes in for me. And in fact, I think Honeybee as an opener is it's okay with me. I really like the jam. It's a good song. But the fact that there's but look, I mean, listen, it's like you could also say you get out of the way. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But the rest of the set, I mean, these are all. This is song kind of selection wise. I really like this set. Honeybee, Arcadia, Travelers, Way It Is, Born debut, Creatures, Born debut, Flowdown. There's just not a whole lot there to complain about. I mean, you're not going to get a 20-minute Arcadia every time, so you can't complain about that. I think there were some flubs in this set that we were talking about at the time. I did have this show. This show did kind of slide down the rankings as the tour kind of grew on. But just speaking about song selection and also execution, maybe not so much the jams. I thought the Creatures was fairly average. The Born was the jam of the set, I thought, easily. I mean, I thought this was a really strong set. I mean, again, just not a whole lot to poke holes in here.
Yeah,
good set list. Good set list. I think 5 sets in we were seeing, and we would see it the rest of the leg. They're definitely switching some set lists, sort of Creatures earlier, songs at different slots, new tracks to sort of create a good blend. Strong cover picks, I felt, but not like cover heavy song or cover heavy shows necessarily. I think probably 3 max, 3 to 4. Brian might be able to confirm that, but yeah, it was a decent set.
Definitely. All right, let's move on to this second set here. Opening up with the debut of Atlas Dogs. I know D's got a lot to say about Atlas Dogs. Big favorite of his. Seekers Part 1 and 2. Arrow, Can't Get You Out of My Head. Arrow, White Lights, Loose Ends, and a 726 encore. I think pretty solid set. Pretty consistent energy-wise throughout. I think there's not, real moments where it dips. I think improvisationally, there's not a ton to write home about. I mean, Atlas Dogs will bear a lot of great improvisational fruit later on in the tour, but here it's just a great, solid debut. Seekers, I love Seekers. I think I would be happier seeing it first set, but I think it's still good here. Seekers 2, Supremacy forever. Arrow, can't get you out of my head. Arrow, great sandwich. Again, high energy, not a ton improvisationally to speak of. Doesn't really deviate much from the song itself. And White Lights into Loose Ends is actually really cool. I believe this is the longest Loose Ends to date. And I mean, White Lights always delivers on the jam. And I will take a 726 encore any day of the week.
Yeah, I think there was some talk about some debate about the 726 as an encore, but yeah, I'm with you, man. I'll take a 726.
Love that.
I'll take
song.
a doobie. I'll take a doobie encore. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it as a great encore.
I also agree, Ryan. I think Seekers is better as a kind of like a penultimate set one pairing.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I personally kind of feel like it works the best. I like Atlas Dogs is great. I mean, just another really strong debut. Fourth debut of the tour, second one tonight. Just another strong song lyrically, song structure wise. I feel like these are, and I don't want to give Rick all the credit because I don't know what the process is with the band, but I feel like he just does a really good job at writing songs that are unique or have it or at least have something unique about them structurally, but also catchy, just catchy licks, choruses. This is a professional batch of songs coming out. I mean, look, these guys are squashing the complaints about new original music or new stuff not coming out fast enough.
They play too many covers.
New stuff isn't quality enough. I mean, I feel like this new batch of songs that came out this year so far has just crushed all of that. I mean,
yeah, I'd throw Old Man's Boat in with those songs as well. I think that song's been really delivering on the jams as well. I think they've been really on a great batch of songs lately.
Now, just to finish my set two thoughts, the arrow. I think for me, a lot of times the arrow just kind of takes a bit to maybe go nowhere real special. So there were 17 minutes in the first part of this area before they segued into Can't Get You Out of My Head, and wasn't too memorable for me. The White Lights, Loose Ends. I always love a loose ends. Wish I knew more of the history. It's one of the few songs that I don't really have a. What's that, Ryan?
I was just singing the song.
And so much like Earthling or Alien kind of holding down the front end of set ones, White Lights so far has been holding down the back end of set twos with 2 encore appearances and then this set two closing, along with the loose ends closing up set two. So also interesting and also one where I kind of feel like, I don't know if White Lights for me is the set two closer, but that's just my opinion.
It jams, man.
It jams. I think it jams better as a set one closer.
Jam it in the first set.
All right, moving on. Show number 4, January 29th, Regency Ballroom, San Francisco, night 1. We've got first set consisting of Doc Brown, Rockdale, Yeti, Tomorrow Never Knows, Yeti, Old Man's Boat, Dragonfly. I believe this is the first of 2 Old Man's Boat Dragonfly pairings of the tour. I could be wrong. I think Dragonfly has been really good this tour, though. But this Yeti, Tomorrow Never Knows Yeti really sticks out to me. Just great psychedelic feel throughout. I really hope we see more jammed out Yetis because I believe that's a song that I don't think they're capitalizing on the jam potential as much as they really could be. But I think in this scenario, I was so happy to see it here. Rockdale always delivers. Old Man's Boat, we get that nice vintage vibe from Peter. And Dragonfly is great and has been filling a really cool role in the shows this tour, and I'm here for it.
Fun set. I think just again construction, Peter song, Rockdale, bring the energy, cool little transitions. Like you said, I definitely, the Eau Claire Yeti. There's been some Yetis recently that have pushed the boundaries a little bit, which is nice to see. I agree. Otherwise, the song's sort of pretty standard, so it's cool to see them do something different. And yeah, great end of the set. Old Man's Boat, fun jams, like we just talked about. A new song, newer, and hitting the Dragonflies, which has a little bit more legs than a Moby. It's cool to see them sort of play with those themes that they're touching on a lot.
Time for a bird to fly. It's time for a bird to fly.
We're talking about the first set here.
We gotta start straight birding.
All right, okay, we're birding. Set 2. If you haven't posted your burden challenge on Twitter and you would like to, please do so and tag us. Great. So you know what? I think it's cheesy, but I now unironically love the song. So I don't feel bad about it. I really like this song now. It's great. And the rest of set 2's I think pretty consistent. I think it's a pretty well constructed set. Fifth of Beethoven. With each play, it's getting a little bit bigger. And I think we're going to have a 20-minute Fifth of Beethoven, kind of like a Fish 2001 kind of thing. I think people were saying, as long as I've been a fan of Goose, at least, I think as far back as Bingo Tour, I've heard a bit of chatter about, like, that's their 2001. And I agree. I think this one, it's the longest one to date, I believe, that they've played, and I think it's really good. And also Clav. I'm a sucker for that, as everybody knows. Everybody knows. Oh yeah. And then Echo. I missed the older arrangement a little bit, but this one has been jamming fantastically, so I'm okay with it. This Old Sea has a great jam in it. Obviously, it will be far outclassed by the This Old Sea to come later in the tour. And Empress is kind of settling into this big set closing role of it's going to be 20 minutes. It's going to be awesome. Not necessarily, living up to its Perry 2021 competition. But this one is cool. It has that cool Jive 2 and Don't Do It jam in it. But solid set, and Doobie Encore is good.
A red bird is singing. I like this set. Like you guys were saying, I think another night with a debut song, very, we hear these songs on first listen, and I think you're trying to absorb it, and so it's always great to go back and as we've said with this song, it developed a unique, special sort of meaning for us. But
yeah,
it's I like the mood and the atmosphere. It's a lot of the vintage vibe, and it's showing Peter on keys again. I think Fifth of Beethoven in Legend Valley was a little longer, but also fucking raging. I was at those shows. Yep, Echo, new arrangement. I really like it. C, great placement there, I think, coming off the first 3 songs. And then, solid Empress, Doobie to close. Roll one up. Let's head to night 2, that was a fun show, I think. So set the tone.
Hey, shout out to MC Bruce Robinson with his Redbird remix.
Red Bruce. Yes, that was fantastic.
He took the gold medal for the straight burden challenge for sure.
For someone who hadn't even listened to the song when we started the challenge, it was pretty solid.
Quick study.
He deserves props for that. I thought like he wasn't gonna do it. Like he was just like, screw those guys. Like I'm way too cool for this, and then like just absolutely went in head first.
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
He put the chain on.
But yeah, okay, wait. As much as I'd love to talk about Bruce all day, we've got shows to talk about here.
But so thoughts on that set? The funny thing about Redbird at the time is like I don't think anybody really thought it was going to turn into what it kind of has turned into at this point. Although I think we all love the jams. We were talking about it right away, like that was like one of the best jams of the tour so far at this point. And Fifth of Beethoven, like I don't know, it doesn't have to be 2001. I don't think so.
Doesn't have to be.
No, it's cool, and they can throw it in here and there, and it's fun. But otherwise, like cool, like looking set list construction. But I don't know. Empress was pretty cool, but like maybe could have been more upbeat. I don't know. The jive part was pretty cool, but beyond that, it was just kind of a I don't know, Empress.
But this Old Sea was, I liked it. Like a little jazzy, very gentle. It was very pretty. It's gonna get crushed by one that came a little later on in the tour, but it's a very pretty version of the song.
Yeah.
Jazzy and gentle. I love it.
Jazzy and gentle, baby.
Moving on, next show, we've got the second night in San Francisco, January 30th. The set that changed everything right here because of one song. We've got The Labyrinth, Into Writing a Novel, Tumblé, Wisteria Lane, Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard, and So Ready. I mean, before we talk about the obvious highlight, that is the
Me and Julio?
behemoth that, yeah. The behemoth that is Wisteria Lane. I do want to mention the cool technical difficulties jam, kind of post Labyrinth into writing a novel. I don't know how I feel about Peter jumping off of stage to help with webcast issues mid-show. I'm not sure if there were any issues in the venue that may have triggered that, but if so, next time, Peter, if you're listening, we can deal with waiting until the webcast team figures it out. You stay on stage and keep playing. Don't worry about us. But this Wisteria, like evil, dark, dual guitar, everything, I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Tempe show with the evolution of Peter's guitar, and it's just, they go deep into this. It's incredible. It's evil. It will come for you. And maybe that's why they only played Wisteria once this tour, because they were afraid that they'd never been able to live up to it. But I think this pretty confidently takes over the GOAT spot for Wisteria, and is pretty handily my top jam of tour.
Yeah, it's jam of the year so far, for sure, pretty easily. I couldn't help but think Ryan sharing his thoughts about his distaste for Peter leaving the stage to help out. Ryan's just looking for another shout out, I think.
We're not talking about Pittsburgh yet, B.
We'll get there. We'll get there, but you already got your shout out, man. Peter, do what you got to do. Peter cares about us at home on Couch Tour.
Yeah, but I'm saying for the sake of the show, like, I appreciate the thought, but you stay on stage and play your concert, like.
Ryan, what are your thoughts about him standing on top of the speaker boxes to the amps to play his guitar?
We're not talking about American Woman yet. You're getting ahead of yourself here.
Yeah, I know, but you're concerned about his safety. Like, let's get all
the
safety concerns out on the table here.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's talk about this Wisteria.
I have some things to say about Wisteria. How about that?
Talk about it, Neal. Talk
about that. First of all, imagine if this recording was lost, right? Like, they had technical difficulties like all through that set. And man, would that have been a shame, because this jam is, it's a special jam. And it's a 2-part jam, right? It's not just evil. There is like a really, really cool like Bliss jam that's just like Sewanee, the Sewanee Wisteria Bliss jam, which I've kind of fluffed a bit. That comes before like all of the darkness hits. And it's beautiful. It's a great jam in its own right. Before like the part that everybody really talks about. And then it gets like really quiet, and then Ben just like absolutely hammers the toms, and then everything just erupts. This jam is like a really good example of them all just listening to each other really well. Like, I think Rick was like playing around with the theme, and then like, Ben hits the toms, and then everybody kind of jumps in. We were talking about Peter's rhythm playing earlier. Like, Peter really drives this jam. Like, when it starts to peak towards the end, it's all Peter, at least to my ears. And so like everybody has a piece of this jam, and it's incredible. And I love everything about it. Not much else to say about this set. But that Wisteria Lane is outrageous.
Yeah, and I'll definitely pile on. Just great, dark. Wisteria, I think. Um, Wisteria has probably been one of my favorite songs the last year or so, just in terms of the spaces that they're finding on a regular basis. Um, Thinking back even to the version that went into Moby at the Cavern, it's short, but they're really getting places quick.
Shout
And
out
this,
Pine Creek, Magic
yeah,
School Bus.
this one just hits a groove and just gets sort of like a churning machine. I feel like they sort of are getting to these, as others, as Ryan said, sort of a demographic and egalitarian. They're sort of driving a whole train together. Um, good set, good set overall. Me and Julio, I don't know why they're whatever, but it's a fun show. Fun set.
Getting Getty involved and on stage. I support it.
Broken whistle.
He can whistle. He can whistle. B, what do you got to say on this Wisteria?
I mean, not much else to add. I mean, like I said, I mean, it's jam of the year so far easily for me, and it sounds like for just about everybody else.
Yeah.
Some more nice use of effects, just dirty and ambient and dark, and I love it. And I can't wait to, we've been, Goose has done some dark jams. I think that they've just been few and far between. And so every time I hear something like this, I mean, this was a little bit next level for them, I think. And I mean, also, I guess the last thing I'll say, very efficient jam. This is by no means the longest jam of this tour, but it got to multiple incredible places, and there just wasn't any wasted time in it.
So it's sub 20-minute jam.
Yeah. So kudos to them for that. And so, yeah, every time I hear something like this, I just feel like, give me more. It's a jam that leaves you wanting more, wishing it would have been longer. That's a good jam.
But that also doesn't take away from it at all. Like, it's still phenomenal.
Makes it better.
Second set here, we've got a nice 5-song second set. Arise, Elizabeth, Into the Mist, Rock the Casbah, Elmeg the Wise, with a pretty standard hot tea to close. Not a ton to write home about improvisationally in this second set. Pretty consistent energy-wise, I think, after the Arise debut, which is a cool song we saw debuted by Arebelo in December. I think we were all happy to see it make the jump to Goose. And then Elizabeth, Into the Mist, Casbah, I think we've talked about this, but leaving Into the Mist unfinished is a weird call. The ending being awesome as it is. But I like a good Jeff song. And then
that was gonna be my note for this was how do you feel about Rock the Casbah?
Yeah, I like a good Jeff song. And then Elmeg to close, it's a long Elmeg. It's a great jam, but nothing too exciting.
Yeah, I think you pretty much summed that up, Ryan. This trend of Into the Mist not being finished, I agree, is worrisome. I mean, come on, it's the best part of the song. It's such an awesome song altogether. Kevin, you might know it as Creatures.
Yes.
Don't get
it's such a great song, and the ending is such a crushing part to it. I mean, yeah. Otherwise, I agree on Elmeg as well. Yeah, it was long and it's good, but it felt like a whole nother world away from the Wisteria from earlier in the night.
Mm-hmm. I think that sums it up pretty well. Anyone else have anything to add?
Debut of Arise.
Yeah, great song.
Amazing too. But
all right, next we have Groundhog Day in Bend, Oregon on February 2nd, opening with Tribute to Gold, Life on the Shelf, Madhavan, No Rain, Jive 2, Lee. I was happy to see Tribute to Gold crop up again. I think they should play this more often. It's a really great tune. And obviously playing it 3 times in a night was fun for the Groundhog Day shtick. Not going to talk about Shelf. Madhavan was fantastic. Just sticks out to me every time I listen to it is how patient the build is in this song. Sometimes they're not as patient with it, but here they took their time, they built that space, and they just wrote it for a while. Really, really, really great there. No Rain again with the really adventurous dual guitar jams. I think if you look at the 2021 Jam of the Year bracket that we've got going on right now, most of the really top jams are with Peter on keys, because I think, for the most part, a lot of the jams where he was on guitar, they were reaching a similar space, I think, in a lot of them. You weren't seeing as much adventure. That you had some Wisterias, like the Pine Creek one that I mentioned earlier, where he's on guitar. But I think a lot of the really more adventurous jams came when he was on keys, because, as I mentioned earlier, he's got more sonic space available to him and a more diverse palette to draw from in terms of sounds. And so I think this tour really saw him expanding his sonic palette on the guitar. And I think this No Rain is a phenomenal example of that. And it actually comes in number 5 on my top jams of the tour. I love it. And just like in the encore slot in San Diego, Jive 2 into Jive Lee, always a win.
Yeah, this I love this set. The Tribute to Gold, we would come to find out even cooler. There was meaning to it. Shelf got a Fantasy Goose pick that night by default as a correction. So that had some special meaning to it. Yeah, but Madhavan No Rain, probably 45 minutes, some of my favorite music of the first leg. Madhavan was great. Super good tempo change as they left the composition, dropped it down really slow, and then built it up to a huge, just sort of patient, raging peak. The No Rain, though, yeah, like Ryan, you said, Ryan, is one of my favorite jams of the tour as well, top 5. It's the dual guitar, but what I liked a lot about this tour is we saw Peter triggering the synth loops. So he just you get that space, which is nice because it at least adds another layer to the jam. And Ben is huge, Tom sort of fills in really dark, descending type jam. Big Trevor moment, I think, as well. This is another huge Trevor jam, super liquidy and bouncy. Yeah, it's one of my favorite jams of the tour, and it's my favorite cover that they do. I'm chasing No Rain right now, so Jive 2, Jive Lee to finish. Probably one of my favorite sets up to this point of the tour. Just very solid, especially that last 2/3.
Yeah, and this is my number 3 show of the tour.
Same.
Yep.
So yeah, really, really strong first set. Ryan, I think you said something, really important about Peter's playing, and it's been what I've been thinking about too. It really has felt like he's shifted focus. His focus was on keys for so long, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it was the new instrument for him, and it really has felt like this year the pendulum has kind of swung back, and he's really starting to work out the various tones that he wants to use, the effects that he wants to use on guitar. His rhythm playing seems to continue to get better. I don't know if that's just me missing it before, or it is getting better, but it stands out to me more now. And yeah, love the No Rain. Also for me, top 10 jam. But yeah, if we're ready to segue into set 2, Ryan, I do want to just talk real quickly about the whole the Groundhog Day thing. And so for set 2, and I'll run through it real quick. So a tribute to Gold again, Silver Rising, Creatures, Green River, 726, Drive, and then encored with a tribute to Gold. Kind of a fake out, I thought. Drive, second jam, and Time to Flee. So I quick shout out to all of the fan streams, because we had to rely on them this tour, way more than I think we would like to. So thankful to have those streams. But what's so funny though is that I'm not really I'm not a regular Facebook user. I kind of have this backdoor access that I only use for Goose streams when necessary. But as it's a new video that starts up for second set. So I click on, I see it goes live. I click on it, and they come out. And I had noticed the banter before first set because I caught the joke about it's been, Rick saying that it's been 2 years. So when I started up that video for set 2 and I heard that, I was like, oh no, I'm in the wrong video, but it says live. What's going on? I closed out of it a couple times. I'm looking around. I'm trying to figure out what the fuck's going on because I'm worried. I'm like, oh shit, I got to get this set list down. What's going on with this? So anyway, it wasn't until they went into Silver Rising that I realized, oh my gosh, this is live.
Vexed.
So they totally got us. I mean, and if that had been an official stream, it wouldn't have had that same effect. Because there's something unique about the Facebook stream kind of shutting down and then restarting with a new video. So I don't know about you guys if that happened to you, but I was completely thrown off by that. So kudos to them. I thought that was a really cool little gag that they pulled. I thought it worked really well. And I thought they made the right call with coming out for the encore, that they didn't play the full Tribute to Gold again, that they kind of just did more of a kind of a quick 1 minute fake out version. But anyway, that's all I want to say about set 2. Obviously I will say, Silver Rising, another debut, and I really love this one also. I mean, this might be my second favorite behind Born in terms of the new songs. Might not be the jam vehicle, but I absolutely love the motion, the lyrics, everything about it. It's another kind of unique song that has some real kind of hooky, catchy elements to it. Super, super excited about, like I said earlier, about this new batch of songs.
I had the show ranked higher than I think most of you guys. Number 4 for me, and even the No Rain Jam.
We have it at 3.
I thought it was top 5. I thought you guys were
checkmate, Kev.
Oh my goodness, it was a great show. The Madu was awesome. The No Rain was awesome right after that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that No Rain. I think you guys touched on like a bunch of stuff I had in my notes, like where it's like very sludgy and like watery at points with the bass. And I think Peter does some like really like kind of tasteful use of distortion. In a band that doesn't use much distortion, Peter used some in that No Rain Jam, and I thought that was pretty great. And I think Jive and I were the only people who were awake when that second set started, and like we were texting back and forth, but like I was watching it on my phone, so I couldn't really text without like leaving the stream, and like I had no idea what the hell was going on either. That was really cool to experience that in the moment because it was a mind bender. Like it was like I did the same thing. I kept like opening like videos, like wait, this can't be right, and then it came to be. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Cool. When a band like takes a moment to think about like how do I troll my fans, and there's like no live stream, right? So it was the perfect opportunity to do all this stuff, and really appreciate that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and second set was solid. I think again one of those sets where not a ton crazy happens improvisationally, but it's solid. So I think it was good, and I mean we got another short time to flee in the encore. I think we're looking for a big time to flee coming up in this next leg of tour. Fingers crossed.
Yes, please.
Hey, shout out to anybody who had time to flee in fantasy that night, because I did, and that was an incredible last minute bonus.
And, and shout out to Brian's performance in Fantasy Goose so far this leg, bumping Neal out of the top spot for now, which I'm very pleased with, though I have not done as well as
Don't pump his tires. Let's move on to the next show.
I'm just here to play against you, man. I don't care.
Hey, Neal with the 2 golden goose.
I got 2 on this tour. Yeah.
4 total.
What?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the music. We don't need to talk about Neal's fantasy Goose
You're the one who
accomplishment.
brought it
There's
up.
too many.
Let's
No,
talk
I was
about
talking about you not winning. I wasn't talking about when you
Oh, I
won.
see. All right, let's move on to the next show.
All right, Portland. I mean, obviously, Echo of a Rose. Then we have Wales, Dr. Darkness, Travelers, the second 2/3 of Echo of a Rose. And then Bob Dawn in the first set. I mean, this set is all about that second half of Echo. It's 30 minutes combined. This jam that we've got, the second jam, being this 20-minute portion. This is a great example of Trevor leading when it fades into that quiet space, and Trevor just pulls it into the darkness, immediately grabs you. Like, it's just so phenomenal. It's dark, it's great, and Trevor is loud. I think those are my main takeaways from it.
Yeah, just after I got checkmated, my last comment about Ben being 4th, and you guys all having it 3, I actually have the show at number 3 on my standings. The Echo, like you said, Ryan, I mean, just incredible Echo. Man, I love so much about this show. It's one of the ones that I go back to, I'll throw on again, listen to again, all the way through, not listening to certain segments of it, but just tickles that spot for me.
Yeah, definitely the love the rose theme. So for those who aren't aware, Portland, the city of roses, a couple of us picked up on that.
Yep.
We're
Not
looking
me.
at Arcadia's Echo of a Rose, Rosewood Heart. But yeah, really fun set. Second appearance of Dr. Darkness, which was the first time we saw the second appearance of a debut song. Good placement for me. This was I think a really cool and well constructed set list. Travelers just perfect in sort of that late set 1 slot, and then big Echo, and got the Bob Dawn with the jam, the ending jam. Just a fun set.
Dawn ending jam,
Yeah. I mean, every set. Like, let's bring that every
Shout
first
out
set
Kev.
that Bob Dawn. Big
Yeah.
Bob Dawn. In the jam, I think it was the Jam Bass podcast where like Rick was talking about like having the actual instrument on stage, and I think this Echo is an example of having the Hammond C3, right, Ryan?
Yep. Yes.
On stage, and like Peter kills it in this jam on the Hammond, and it sounds so good, and you can hear the difference between like when he was doing it, I think on the Nord right before.
Mm-hmm.
And here, and this is an amazing example of that. And it really convinced me that like what Rick was saying, where like you got to have the actual instrument on stage for that extra punch. Yeah,
Didn't have enough knob with the Nord.
Yeah, exactly. Not enough knob. And then the sirens. We haven't talked about the siren. Like this was like that was when like shit got crazy, like absolutely crazy.
Peter called the cops.
Yeah, I had like evil circus clown in my notes, but like that was absolutely outrageous. Yeah, the air raid came and the zombie apocalypse was upon us, and there was all kinds of weird shit happening. And man, I love this jam so much.
Yeah, this is right behind Wisteria for me in terms of my jams. And around like 11 or 12 minutes, I mean, Trevor is dropping just those rubber band bass bombs.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hate to say it, but this was 94 Fish sounding for me. Almost that carnival organ effect, whatever that is, Ryan. And then the bass that Trevor was playing. I mean, just a few just really odd, and that's a big part of what makes it. The whole jam is great, but that middle section there where they're transitioning, then yeah, Peter calls the cops in. I mean, it's insane. Such a killer jam. And this is a great set. Bob Dawn, obviously, like you mentioned with the outro jam, love to see it. Love to have the confidence and the optimism that's definitely not a one-time thing or a once-in-a-while thing, that hopefully without it is the once-in-a-while thing.
Yes. Okay, moving into the second set, we've got another strong Rockdale as it tends to be. Then we've got another 20+ minute Rosewood, Indian River, and Pancakes. I mean, we've seen Indian River come back in its older arrangement, not the one that
New
was
feel.
debuted in the fall, not the new feel. But I mean, this Rosewood is really, really good. It is my number 7 jam of the tour for me. But yeah, I think this one definitely is a lot more interesting than the San Diego one. And then Indian River, I like how they've incorporated the Welcome to Delta jam as part of the song. You know, it is no longer its own thing. Nice to see it come back now that the Delta variant of COVID is no longer the dominant thing. And then another Pancakes coming back, not as groundbreaking as the debut version in San Diego, but still solid 17-minute Pancakes closing the second set.
Yeah, it's interesting, Ryan. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of the the kind of the OG Indian River. So they brought that back, but what's interesting is that it's Peter on that intro versus Rick, which is double interesting with when we bring in this kind of Welcome to Delta-ish new jam that's being apparently just incorporated into Indian River. So Welcome to Delta being kind of a real, I always felt like that was a real Peter-led instrumental. So interesting developments with this song in that respect. I kind of felt like maybe Peter is really digging that OG version, wanted to kind of put his spin on it, and then also is leading that that second instrumental jam. So interesting. And then also just real quick on the Rosewood, yeah, I also really like this Rosewood, and I think I don't currently have it ranked as high, but I have been in my head kind of wondering, like, do I like this one better than the much longer Louisville version?
Madison.
Was that Madison? Sorry, with the the 28-minute version. A lot of times it's hard. Sometimes with 28 minutes, something like that, you just
length isn't everything,
Yeah, you want to love it, but I really do like this Rosewood from this night. I think it might be my favorite of the 3 they played. And again, all 3 Rosewoods, all very long.
This is my favorite Rosewood. I have no shame in admitting it, and I have it very high. I think it might even be in my top 5. I have to look again. And it's all like pretty fluid. I love this Rosewood. I mean, I love Rosewood, right? But I love this particular Rosewood. It's one of my favorites in a long time, actually. Pretty awesome. Not looking forward to controversies around Welcome to Delta being part of Indian River. There will be some kind of 200 comment thread on Facebook about this in no time. And,
I think there already has.
Not much else to say about this set. Like, Rockdale rocks. It's awesome. It's always the same, pretty much. It's about 15 minutes. Pancakes could have been more awesome, but there are awesome versions of Pancakes out there. Yeah, still awesome. Love it.
I mean,
for the
I didn't talk about the White Lights Shamalama encore.
Shamalama.
I think saying that it happened is doing it justice.
Who got married?
All right.
Yeah, it's a good set.
Yeah.
Great set.
All right, next show, we've got the second night in Portland. First set, we've got Returning the Favor from Tempe. We've got Slow Ready into SOS, Earthling or Alien, Atlas Dogs, My Generation, Inside Out. I think this is a really good set, actually. We've got, SOS, the first few times they played it, it was a bit shorter, but they added in that Peter organ solo at the beginning of that final jam section in the fall. I think that it's phenomenal. As you mentioned, having that C3 on stage, it's just got such a great sound to it. And I love SOS. It has become one of my favorite songs by then. And then Earthling, as we've talked about this, and I mentioned earlier that kind of churning jam that they get to in this, and it has a darker tinge to it. I wouldn't call this a fully evil jam, but it's got that darker tinge, and it gets to that really nice churning space. And I love to see Earthling filling that first set jam vehicle role. the conducting was a fun shtick while it lasted, but I think this suits the song much better. And then Atlas Dogs, this jam, it's the second time played for this. Obviously, we broke the trend. I don't think we mentioned in the last show. They broke the trend of debuting a new song at the beginning of the second set, and also started repeating the songs. And so I think on the second play, with the notable exception of Pancakes, I think with the second play, these songs really start stretching out a little bit more. We'll talk about the Born in the next show, but this Atlas Dogs is phenomenal, very, very fast, and a great build. And then My Generation into Inside Out. Inside Out is also one of my favorite Goose covers. Just really, really great. And I think this set is just really strong overall.
Ellis Dogs, man. That's a really, really good jam. You already hit on like kind of the build and the speed. And it starts off like not so fast and then gets really, really fast. And like if Goose starts doing more jams like that, where they do like big tempo builds as it goes, I mean, they have a phenomenal drummer, right? Everybody knows this at this point. So they can do stuff like this. And that jam, I have that one in my top 10. I'm probably the only one who does. And I just absolutely love the way it builds up and the energy that it gets towards the end. It's spectacular, and it makes me like really stoked about like more Atlas Dogs in the future. Like this is the one where like, first Atlas Dogs was like pretty good, and I was psyched about the tune, and like this one makes it like one that I'm really chasing and I'm really looking forward to.
Just out of curiosity, where you guys have the show ranked amongst the tour?
I don't have this in my top 10.
I can tell you, Kev, that I have this at number 8.
Yeah, I have it 7 or 8. I think sort of around there. It's a solid show.
I think this would have been my 11.
This is,
and I mean,
it's a good set. It's a good set. Slow Ready into SOS, like you said, Ryan. SOS is growing on me. It's a great song live. Earthling, no conducting, just jam it, and we got some business. And yeah, Atlas Dogs is just this is where that song got really, really hooked me. And I think it's just set up really well to continue to be a fun one for people to see as they keep bringing it out over the next couple of weeks. 2 good covers to close. Fun set.
Yeah, I think as far as SOS, Earthling, and Atlas Dogs, I think those were the 3 best versions of those respective songs on this tour. So that really helped strengthen the set. I mean, for me, I rank the show where I rank it in part because of the My Generation Inside Out kind of wrap up to set 1. I don't have anything major against either of those songs, but just back to back to close the set after what they had just dropped. I mean, I just kind of felt like maybe that's the time for something else. But and then as far as set 2, a big arrow, and then another Redbird, Flow Down, Turn Clouds, closing the set with Arcadia, and then encoring with the Slow Ready Jam. And so yeah, just I guess back to reasons for ranking. I felt that this set 2 didn't really deliver much in terms of improv. I mean, the arrow was the only thing that really went out there, and for me, this was another arrow that just kind of spent 20 minutes doing good stuff, but nothing great that I really had a hankering to get back to on a re-listen.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty good way to sum up the second set. I don't think there's really much else any of us need to say on that. Moving on to Seattle, first set there, we've got Butter Rum, Your Ocean, Hot Tea, Born, Honeybee, and Fish in the Sea. It's a good set when you've got rum and honeybee in it. Really interesting seeing Your Ocean and Hot Tea both mid-first set. Not a placement you see from either of those songs usually. I like seeing them there. Switching up the placement is cool. Less predictable for Hot Tea showing up there as well. And this Born, man, we get that extended Born treatment with the 2001 jam. Obviously, I mean, this outclasses the debut version from San Francisco, but easily the jam of the set and the show. Really, really standout moment. I love this. And Fish in the Sea is a great cover. Love the synth groove aspect to it.
Yeah, this this set personally for me just didn't really do it for me. Felt pretty disjointed. Just song selection, like you said, Ryan, sort of rum, ocean, tea, but Born was great. Yeah, highlight of the night, highlight of the set for sure. Yeah, a good moment and a forgettable set for me. So
Yeah. Overall, same feelings on this, fellas. But yeah, Born was so good. They entered the jam a little bit differently this time than in the debut version, which I know some other folks that we respect a lot have talked about this too. That a lot of these new songs are being worked out, in real time, especially when it comes to the jams, obviously. But yeah, so this was cool. They tweaked it a little bit. And then just kind of came in, Rick using the reverse the reverse delay effect, which we've seen quite a bit of that, I think. And I think both Rick and Peter might be using that same. You might be both using reverse. Sometimes it's hard for me to tell. Yep. Yeah, and the kind of the full band transition felt a little smoother in this version. Jams obviously longer. Not incredible. I didn't think it was days and days better than the first version. I thought it was better, but I mean, this song just kills. I mean, I feel like this is one that they're going to continue to kind of experiment with, but Born alone does it for me.
Yeah.
Born is the jam of the first set easily. I have this overall as a show ranked probably in my bottom 4 of the tour.
Mm-hmm. But still solid. And second
Always
set
solid.
again.
Always
yeah,
solid.
Second set again. A trend we keep seeing this tour. Solid set. Not much in the way of improv. You've got pretty standard Yeti, Into the Mist, Old Man's Boat, which is becoming. They're cranking out these 15-minute versions, which are fantastic. Peter on the vintage vibe. But it loses a little bit of its luster, just like a 20-minute arrow loses a little bit of its luster when there are 4 other 20-minute arrows on the tour that do a very similar thing. The debut of Jeff Engborg, which I really, really enjoyed. I think this will be a great first set tune. Seekers, and then another big Empress to close the second set. And Don't Do It Encore. Again, solid set, not much in the way of improv.
Shout out Mini Mall Jam.
Oh yes,
yeah.
That was in Engborg, right?
Yep, that was a cool song. Yeah, the
first
set
since Bingo Tour.
Was this another Unfinished Mist too? I haven't, or sort of.
The Mist was unfinished, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't love this set either. This show is one of my least favorite of the tour. The Engborg was cool. Nice little moment. You can pick out highlights for sure. Didn't do it for me here.
I want more Jeff Engborg. Please play it again. Pretty cool backstory about Jeff Engborg. Jeff Engborg went on to Goose and talked about the song, which is pretty great. Jeff Engborg, the guy, was apparently a pretty amazing musician himself, but he composed this tune for Great Blue way back in however long ago. And he composed this tune on the Hammond C3 that Peter plays on stage today, which is really, really fucking cool. What a cool story. Then also it was played with somebody's Hunter clav that was in someone's mom's basement, which is a thing that happens.
I wish I knew someone who had a clav in their
mom's
basement.
In some alternate universe where your friend's mom has a Hunter clav in her basement. Well, that apparently happens in Wilton, Connecticut. So there you go.
Lucky them.
The one cool thing to say about this, and then the Mini Mall rap comes back right after it's been since Bingo Tour.
It's just like.
So that's pretty cool.
You know what? We need a Bird and Mini Mall mashup. That's what we need here.
Red Bird, Mini Mall.
Okay, let's move on. let's move on to the show.
Yes.
I think the first really great, consistently amazing show of the tour. Two really incredible sets. Bozeman. This was also the first show of the tour where there was no stream available whatsoever. We had a shout out to Jake, who was texting us the set list while he was at the show. We had no idea what was going on, but listening to the audience tape recording the next day, I was just blown away by what I heard. Starting off with this really, really solid first set, Jive 1 opener, Walcott, Silver Rising, All I Need, Doc Brown. Walcott, Goose kills tunes by the band. Look Out Cleveland, Don't Do It, Walcott, all fantastic. Fits their sound so well, and the jam out of this is just so great. The segue into Silver Rising is fantastic. But really, this All I Need to me is everything I want out of an All I Need. In terms of if I'm looking for a 25-minute All I Need that, obviously it's not going into any crazy deep dark spaces. It deviates a little bit in the last few minutes into a cool space, but that first jam is just beautiful and melodic. Second jam just pushes to that peak. Really reminds me a lot of those big 2019 versions. And then has a fantastic segue into Doc Brown to close the set. Absolutely phenomenal.
Bro, that was my comment. This is the best 2019 All I Need that you never heard. If you haven't heard it, hear it.
2019 didn't stretch out the first jam like that, so that's what
oh
this
man,
one
it's
has.
just such you're right, such a good feel though. And I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, this is like the typical, almost perfect All I Need. Just the balance of the jams. Loved it. And shout out to Rockin' Knit, who was the taper there that night that had this up the next day.
Thank you.
So really appreciate that, because like you mentioned, only show of the tour that we didn't have at least a fan stream, and that makes it really hard to live set list. But yeah, Walcott was really good. I love that cover. In fact, if they only ever did one band cover, that would be the one that I would choose if they do.
Yeah, agreed.
It's my favorite of the batch. This isn't a grand statement, but this is the best Silver Rising. It's not jammed out, but it is perfectly played, beautifully played. This is like a tearjerker almost for me. I've listened to this a lot, and I just love it. I mean, just the emotion in this song, and maybe it's just me, but I just love it so much. And just to quickly wrap up the rest of the set, I don't know. I know, Ryan, we talked about the Ghostbusters teases that Peter was dropping at the end of that All I Need.
Oh yeah, and Rick was teasing it earlier in the song.
Yeah,
as
Rick
well.
was earlier in it. Yeah, I listened to it again. He does it first.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. And then Doc Brown to close the set, as it doesn't do.
Yeah, this was a fun set. Just like this set is like epitomizes when I first started listening to Goose. Like, you get a cover, a cool band cover, Jive, an older track of theirs, a new song, which as you said, Brian, very beautiful. I think perfect placement, heavy energy in the Walcott, and then you hit this nice sort of chilled out song, great placement, and just a pretty solid, near perfect All I Need in terms of just good first jam, beautiful, nice energy in the second. The last 5 minutes too of, like you said, that All I Need, it was almost like it felt kind of composed. It's like a moment I would highlight
going on there?
There's the last 5 minutes have a weird, unique space where it's like they all hook up on a melody that maybe it'll become something or is something already. Who knows? But great set for sure.
Yeah, Doc Brown is first set. Doc Browns are the bellwether of a good show, right? If it's second tune of the first set, then that is the bellwether of a good show. Man, I really like that WS Walcott. It's almost like Arcadia, Denver Arcadia, 1122 Arcadia Light, without the soaring guitar solos, but very much similar kind of jam. And I absolutely love that. And the All I Need, you guys have already said everything I think there is to say about that. There's like one little piece in there which I was like kind of saying in chat where like it sounds like Rick starts to play around with like the lick from Jessica, the Allman Brothers Band's song, and like that's really interesting that they grabbed a hold of that. But he never did anything with it. He kind of played around with it for about a minute and a half and then walked away from it. But pretty cool thing to note about that one. I think that comes at about like the 18-minute mark in that tune.
And now, shall we talk about this set too? It was so awesome to see like this show where they nailed both sets. You know, the pitfall had to come somewhere, and it came in the encore. But you know that like this second set is so phenomenal. You know, continues the momentum from set one and just builds on it. Like, you know, pretty short Elizabeth, but a cool jam, and the segue into Moby is incredible. So great. So Ready then comes next. You know, keeps the energy high. Obviously, nothing outside the box there. And then we get a 30-minute segment of Cross-Eyed into Dragonfly, which is just like really, really awesome jamming. And then This Old Sea, which I'm going to fluff forever because I am absolutely in love with this jam. You know, it starts out innocuously enough. And before I even talk about This Old Sea, I just want to mention this set is a lot longer than a lot of other sets from this tour. You know, like I think in a lot of scenarios, I wouldn't have been surprised if they ended after Cross-Eyed Dragonfly, because they were just past that 1 hour mark, I believe. And there are a lot of sets that wind up around that length. So I'm really happy they decided to throw down this 20-minute This Old Sea to close the set. You know, you have that typical ethereal, beautiful This Old Sea jam to start, and then just before the 12-minute mark, they kind of take it dark, and it just gets evil. This is our second truly evil jam of the tour. Peter really, really shines here. First on the vintage vibe, he activates that siren loop synth, and then there's that moment when he comes in on the organ when we're like in this like deep, like thrashy kind of territory, and it just hits perfectly for me, just the way that takes up the space in the jam, and then it returns to major at the end to close. It's incredible. This is my number 2 jam of the tour. You know, I had it above Wisteria the first time I heard it, but you know, after listening a few more times, Wisteria beats it by a little bit. But I adore this.
So this was actually the second longest set of the tour. Just if you're curious, Ryan, it's behind only Louisville set 2, and by a minute, but only a minute longer than the previous night's set 2 in Seattle, which didn't turn out quite as well. But yeah, just I mean, obviously, I think the main thing here is for me is the C. I love this song. This is a great version. I have it at number 3 in my jams. Peter Calls the Cops Again, which I love, and but what I like about it is that it's the jam starts out with what I consider the old school South Farms 917 debut, kind of just beautiful slow build jam, just that classic jam. Mm-hmm. So I love getting that classic jam, and then also getting this amazing jam after. I think some of the other more exploratory This Old Seas kind of abandoned the pretty jam, mm-hmm. and went straight into kind of many different areas across some of the versions from last year. So that's, I think, what I love the most about this. This is the GOAT C for me.
Oh, 100%.
And I mean, it's a big part of that is as much as that great second jam is they deliver on the kind of beautiful This Old Sea jam that I think we all kind of like from our memories back to that, you know, debut electric, well, not debut, but bringing it back in 2020.
My notes had this down as Bliss Old Sea Type 2 and Bliss Old Sea Again, which is an incredible version of the song. I listened to it again today. It's not often you get 30 minutes to listen to a C, but I try to carve it out because it's just an awesome tune. Number 3 as well on my top 10.
Yeah, I can't really say anything that's already been said. This Old Sea is incredible. I have it as my number 2, like Ryan.
Yeah.
So I got your back on that one, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and second set cross-eyed and painless, like anytime, like bring it. So awesome, and this is probably the best Dragonfly they ever played. Like they really that end piece where it gets like really frantic. They really dive into that one on this one. Like some of these Ted Tapes tunes can be, I mean, some of them like uh, Dragonfly and Moby can be like really can jamish, and this is like one of the first ones that doesn't sound like a can jam on this tour, that they kind of just like went and played from beginning to end just the way they played it, like on Ted Tapes, and I think it's pretty cool.
Do they carry pina coladas in cans?
Uh, None shall speak of the pina coladas.
I think we talked about this, but swap this encore with San Diego's, make
To
it the
Lee.
Jive 2 Lee, and
Yeah.
this is an all-timer show.
Well, so we talked about this a little bit offline, and I'm, my opinion is that we're gonna get quite a few shows that are gonna top anything that we saw from this tour.
Mhm.
That said, I have Bozeman as the best show of this tour. The only the only things that I would talk about, if if you swapped out that encore, I think there's only 2 or 3 things that you swap out here, and I think swapping the Elizabeth opener out is probably something else that would make this a top show. And then I love the cross-eyed. I think they kind of went a little bit. I think they kind of shortchanged us on the intro jam, which that's one of my favorite parts of Goose covering this song. And so, I mean, you look back to Kansas City, that was such an amazing jam, kind of coming out of the Arcadia. But it was that intro jam, and it was far longer than what we saw last night, or what we saw in Bozeman. So there's a couple of things that I think could be tweaked there, but man, that's nitpicking, boys, because that's the top show of the tour.
Easy, in my opinion. I mean, offline, I also said that like this is one of the best ones they've ever done, which maybe I've backed off that a little bit. But like, man, it's a really good show. I mean, trying to think back, like what beats it over the past couple of years, I'm like having a hard time.
Yeah,
I mean,
Louisville.
Yeah,
not Louisville.
That's a
Not
matter of
Louisville.
opinion.
I will
Let's get
definitively
there.
say not Louisville.
Well, let's get there. Let's dive into this last 4-night run of the tour, starting February 9th, First Avenue, Minneapolis, opening big drive, first double jam drive of the tour. Gun Street Girl, Lead the Way, Life on the Shelf, Electric Avenue, Madhavan. I mean, it's a pretty solid standard drive, similar to Arrow Drive. We'll have these big 20-minute versions that are 20 minutes of drive, and it's still very great jamming, but nothing crazy outside the box. For me, Gun Street Girl, I know we talked about this, nod to the other Tom Waits song that would have been the obvious pick here, Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis. Otherwise, I think Madhavan got a little bit shortchanged as the first set closer here, only coming in around, just over 15 minutes. But, another pretty solid set.
I thought this set was pretty standard. And in fact, I kind of struggle a little bit with this show as a whole, and we'll talk about set 2 in a minute. But yeah, I thought the drive was good, but not great. And I think that's probably, I guess, what I'd say about just about everything else from this set. So,
ditto.
I love Lead the Way. It's always got like a sweet jam in the middle, and that's the best thing I can say about this set.
It's gonna have its 20-minute version sometime soon.
I sure hope so, because
I
love that jam. If they really let that jam breathe,
drive keeps getting moved further and further up in the into that opening spot there. They used to never open, and it's got 3 opening spots in the last year. It was always always in the 3 spot. They love to put it in the 3 spot.
I like a drive opener. Second set, we've got Jamless Bob Dawn opening up, and then Echo of a Rose, Spirit of the Dark Horse, Mississippi Half Step, and Flea, and then a White Lights encore. What do you guys think about the new Dark Horse arrangement? I personally would like to hear the old one come back. I think it's got more of a unique vibe to it. I think that this newer version sounds a lot more standard Goose to me than the previous version of Dark Horse, and I do really want the Thunder ending. Please, Goose, if you're for some reason listening to this podcast and you've made it an hour,
Made it this
40
far.
If
Yeah.
anyone's
minutes in,
listening,
if anybody is listening still, an hour and 40 minutes in,
Tell the band.
so I was thinking the same thing, Ryan. I was like, maybe Dark Horse is on the shelf right now because they're just perfecting the ending.
Yeah, 'cause that was a big
the
gap.
album ending. But unfortunately, it's because they were trying something different. And I prefer the kind of the OG version. And then just I thought about this earlier, talking about the Rick's vocal effects. I feel like on Dark Horse there's been an issue with it. And I think maybe two or three Dark Horses ago, it sounded off, and we were like, oh man, we got a bad cable or something maybe.
Right.
But it almost seems like it's been two or three in a row where his vocal effects are really kind of sounding off. I don't know if that's just me, but all in all, yeah, I definitely like to see the OG version come back. But maybe they'll work this one out a little bit and tweak it a little bit more. It definitely felt new, and it felt like I don't want to say forced, but it didn't really felt like it was flowing out of them.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, they took it 22 minutes and didn't really go anywhere. And I agree. The old version, saw a couple versions of it last year, and it's one of my favorite songs to see live. And was hoping that I might get it, in the last two shows I saw. But yeah, it didn't click for me yet. I probably need to listen to it a couple more times. The arrangement seemed weird. It sounded forced. Agreed, Brian. Rest of the set too. Mississippi Half Step, obviously they crushed that cover, but kind of forgettable. The echo was good. The new arrangement, I personally like it. It's fun and bouncy, and a standard solid flea to finish.
With a jam though, we got our flea with a decent sized jam.
Yeah, it's a good jam.
Good.
I'll say this about Dark Horse. I think I'll have the dissenting opinion on like that arrangement. I don't think it's a bad arrangement of that tune. I think it needs some like time to like breathe a little bit, but like I like that like ooncy like kind of beat. Like somebody on Twitter called it like the Disco Biscuits Goose, which I thought was like funny and not necessarily true, but like it made me laugh. It did sound good. They just never did anything creative with it, and I think it can go somewhere, especially like as they start to use more guitar effects. Like Rick did play around quite a bit with that like reverse tape delay thing in this one. I think it was Rick. It's hard to tell who's doing what sometimes, but I think in that particular one, I think it was Rick. So I have hopes for like this arrangement of Dark Horse. Like I don't think it's like bad, and like if I were ever to hear it, say like, well, I really wish they would play the other version. But the other thing in this set is this Echo of Rose is awesome, and it's a lot like the Echo of a Rose from Montana, Pine Creek, insofar as like it's incredibly high energy to end. I didn't get anybody on the train with me on like loving that Montana Echo of a Rose, but this one kind of follows that.
I love that. No, that Pine Creek Echo of a Rose is great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Very
And this one like kind of not as good, but like follows that mold.
Still great.
So pretty good.
All right, moving on. We've got Madison, Wisconsin, the first show of the tour that one of us was at, and I will let Dee talk about it in a sec. First set, we've got Earthling or Alien, Caution, Wales, Rosewood, Old Man's Boat. I mean, this show is just carried, I think, a lot by the two gargantuan jams that we've got, one each set, Rosewood and Arrow, both hitting 28 minutes or so. But I mean, this Earthling or Alien, again, continues that to hit that like churning, darker vibe. I like their cover of Caution a lot. And Old Man's Boat delivered. What was your experience at the show for this one?
Yeah, it was a fun night. Got together with some good friends, Brendan and Becca. Shout out to them, up from Illinois, and yeah, we had a good time. Earthling opener was kind of funny because after getting it in Colorado for the mission shows, felt I was cursed. But yeah, the jam was good. I like Caution. I think they did a good job of it, seeing it live. Always love Rosewood. It's obviously one of my favorite songs with my handle. Big, long version, which Brian talked about it earlier. Sometimes, I think there's some good moments in it. After having listened back to it a couple times, it takes a little bit to get to some of these places for sure. You could look at it almost like it's a very patient build, or is it sort of they're working out ideas? But I like it a lot. Good jam. Old Man's Boat is fun to see live too, and yeah, solid set, fun set.
All right, and second set, we've got Yeti, AUATC, Arrow, Arise, and Arcadia. Yeti and the A's. I just noticed that. I wonder if there was an intention there with that. Speaking of the Rosewood and the Arrow, there's something that sticks out to me from the Fish It Festival documentary. In one of his interviews, Page talks about, maybe the first 20 minutes of the jam isn't that interesting, but they don't get to the crazy, awesome stuff that happens at minute 25 without that first 20 minutes. And so I think this Arrow and this Rosewood are a great example of that kind of jamming where it takes a while to get there, but there are a few minutes of cool stuff at the end. And because of a lot of the big portion of the jams that don't go, to like crazy interesting places, I think these two end up a lot lower on my list than they would otherwise. But I think they're great, and this Arcadia really pleasantly, I think, surprised all of us. When we saw it coming in that second set closer spot, I think we were expecting that quick. We had seen the previous two Arcadias on this tour were pretty standard. We got this crazy Trevor slap bass solo, and then just like false peaks on false peaks, and it ended up being, a nice extended version. So, pretty solid set, and then Disco Inferno encore.
Yeah. Fun set. Go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I struggle with this one a little bit as well, because I feel like outside of Rosewood, Arrow, and Arcadia, there's not a whole lot happening. Really not a whole lot at all. And so I look at those big jams, and Arcadia is my favorite of those three, to be honest. And I think, your Page quote, I mean, I struggle with that a little bit only because I don't think that either of these, I think that Rosewood and Arrow both went really long, but I don't know that either of them really ended up delivering enough to warrant what it took to get there. Because I feel like in that quote, it's saying, it's like, when we deliver the goods in minute 25, then you're going to feel better about, minutes 10 through 20.
Right.
And so I kind of felt like both of these really, really were searching for something. And it's good music, obviously, that they played. But I just don't feel like either really reached the heights that any of us would hope for in a jam with that length, for sure. I love the Trevor bass solo in the Arcadia, though. I mean, I love it. I love it. Neal, go ahead.
That's what I was just about to say. We talked earlier in the pod about like Trevor, like really being out there and like, oh, Trevor ripped. Like, this is an example, right? I think a lot of times when you hear Trevor like really rip it up, like he kind of gets pushed to do it by the band. Like, he's not like super confident, like he's going to go out there and just like slap it up, And this one like was really unforced. Like, this was like he went out there and did it. And it is a unique Madavon, right? Or I mean, Arcadia. He's never really done that before in Arcadia, at least that I know of. And it's spectacular. It's great bass playing. So I think it sets that Arcadia apart. It's really cool. And then the other thing about this set is the tune by the really unknown indie artist Bob Iver.
Bon Don.
Yeah, I mean, I think his name's Robert Iver, but spectacular fucking tune, man.
It's that's a top tier cover.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of this Bon Iver guy, so I just assumed Bob.
Oh man.
Yeah, it must have been Trevor had a little bit of extra mustard in the tank that set for sure. It must have been the Mountain Dew he was drinking out of the champagne flute.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah.
So I did see that. That was funny live. Yeah, the
That's
Arcadia.
classy. That's
We missed the
classy.
Trevor joke. We missed the Trevor.
Oh, we didn't talk
Dressing.
about the Trevor joke.
Oh my
yeah.
God! Yes, Trevor spoke into a microphone for the first time since Terminal 5, I think.
Right.
Is that when he read poetry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the joke? I don't remember what the joke was.
Where do you find the best salad? I believe.
Oh yes, the dressing
room.
The dressing room.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it's not a good joke.
No,
but
now, okay, wait. Battle of the jokes. Will you take this joke or the joke Jeff made before American Woman in Texas in November?
Which was
that was something about because freedom rings in America or something. I think,
yeah, right.
I think I'll take Trevor's. You know, I have a thing with American Woman, as everybody knows.
Well, I just want to hear Trevor talk more. I mean,
yeah. Oh yes.
Oh, one thing that I want to say before we move on from this. I mentioned this in chat when we were watching the stream, but in Ate Up All the Cake, Peter totally loses his way and starts playing a Star Wars theme for just a second, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. Did any of you guys pick up on that? No? You should go back and listen to it. He absolutely, without a doubt, plays the Star Wars theme for
where?
In Ate Up All the Cake. He's playing piano and
That's what that acronym stands for?
What? No.
Ate Up All the Cake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was just an acronym.
For Ate Up All the Cake.
Okay, well, no, but I didn't. I thought it was just a bunch of letters. I didn't know it had a meaning. There we go.
Yes.
I learned something today.
He plays the Star Wars theme for just a moment in there, which I thought was kind of funny. But just
well, to be fair to Ryan, I looked up Bobby Vare, and he's actually known for some obscure song titles and album titles and stuff. So yeah. But they say "Ate Up All the Cake" in the song.
Inventor of acronyms.
Okay. All right. Moving on to I think the second really awesome show of the tour, really consistently amazing across both sets. Louisville opening up with a really great Jive 2. Just want to point out again how much I love Peter having the clav solo in this one. I'm a sucker for clav, as I've mentioned before, and everybody knows. Indian River makes its second appearance of the tour here, featuring a nice broken string jam from Rick, which leads to another kind of that Fish 1994 kind of vibe. I was talking to someone earlier about this specific moment, and this is a really cool space. Again, really great Trevor lead, Peter on some like weird and haunting repeating piano riff. It was just a really cool jam, and this one kind of having the absence of the synth vibe that we've seen or that we saw in the This Old Sea, or the guitar from Wisteria. A very different approach to that evil jamming, and then leading into Dr. Darkness appropriately out of the darkness. And then Pancakes and Hot Tea. I mean, this Pancakes is phenomenal. Makes my top 10 jams of the tour. Really just uplifting jam. They kill it. I think beats the San Diego version, in my opinion, is the GOAT Pancakes out of the three. And then a cool Atypical Hot Tea. I love when this breaks out of that 15 to 17 minute standard version. And just really, really good set.
Yeah, so really awesome first set. Another not quite Welcome to Delta jam that is really, really good. It's going to be interesting to see, just kind of long term, where this sits with Indian River. If this is something they continue to do and becomes regular, or if these are a couple isolated incidents. But that's a killer jam. Pancakes, I totally agree with what you said, Ryan. Yeah, this is the third and best version. Very beautiful middle section of this. This is a top 10 jam for me as well. And then the Hot Tea. Yeah, just again, Ryan, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying here. I do love, this is the best Hot Tea I've heard in a while. Just kind of really kind of dark, dirty funk soup, and then it just it turns up, the tempo picks up, it turns up beat, but it maintains that same just dirty funk to it. So it goes through a few different kind of feels to that jam. Yeah, really, really good, really strong set. Yeah, I love this show. My number 2 show.
Absolutely.
It's a number 1 for me, and it's not even close. Not even close.
You have it that far ahead of Bozeman?
Well, 1 spot, in fact, in front of Bozeman, Ryan.
No, I mean, no, but you said it's not even
But
close.
you said not even close.
Yeah, that.
And then you were
that
like, not
implies that
even
it's
close.
leaps and bounds ahead of.
Well, there's a gap,
Bozeman.
you know.
And that should and that should give you some context on how I feel about Rupert Holmes and Pina Colada.
Oh man,
Deciding factor.
Looking for a shout out.
Not looking for a shout out. Just
it's a
trying
perfect
to
show to bring it up at.
I'm with you, Kev. I'm with you, Kev. It's the number 1 for me too. So I think I dropped out there, but yeah, you guys, I'm sure, touched on it. This is a really fun set, like top to bottom, no holes, good jams, great like mood and energy. Live, it was an amazing crowd and vibe. Definitely am on the train of don't miss your Kentucky or Ohio shows. They love playing there, and yeah, Dr. Darkness was cool to see live. Pancakes was great, and the tea was super super different. I was listening again today, and the version is kind of cool. It has the last 6-7 minutes, very unique for tea, which is nice.
All right, let's move on to that second set. Opening up with Atlas Dogs, A Western Sun, Creatures, Flowdown, Peggy-O, Factory Fiction, and then a Jive Lee Flowdown encore. I mean, this is a cool set. I think it flowed really well. I really liked the splitting up of Flowdown into Peggy-O was a cool segue, something interesting. Not sure if I want to see Flowdown being split up in the future, but I mean, I think returning it out of Lee in the encore was cool. A Western Sun is really the standout jam for me in this set. Just a really great space, similar kind of uplifting to the Pancakes we had in the first set. Oh, and I lied. I think Factory Fiction's actually a better jam. This is the best Factory Fiction since Bingo Tour. I think that's a pretty safe bet to say. Another really, really patient build that we've seen. Gets dark for a little while. Another really strong version.
Yeah, I think I ended up giving the nod to Bozeman on my end, in part due to just not quite the improvisational manpower that we get from Bozeman. I think here you look at this second set, and the Western Sun has a really pretty jam. I was nodding with you before you corrected yourself to Factory Fiction, because I actually do, for me, think that this Western Sun jam is probably the best jam of the set. The Creatures, it's another good Creatures. I think that's another song that's there's been some jams that are good but just not great.
As we mentioned,
and that's okay.
Focus.
Yeah, I love Peggy-O, so always very happy to see that. Obviously, Factory Fiction is always great to see. It's a great show. It's the number 2 show for me, but that's why it's number 2 and not number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in a show where Rick sings a Jerry tune and they play Factory Fiction, and then they drop like a 17-minute Western Sun, that's a good show and a set right there. That's enough to carry a whole show. Like the first set could be bad, even. I mean, like Peggy-O is one of my favorite covers that they do. It's so beautiful, and I can't overstate that. But I'm with Jive on this one. That Western Sun jam is my favorite jam in the set, by like a lot, I think. Factory Fiction is good. It's always good every time they play it. But that Western Sun is pretty great. Atlas Dogs, like, disappointing, right? Like it's like kind of the first one that they played, which is they didn't really take it too far. I love the second one that they played a lot, and I was hoping when they played it this time they were really going to give it a ride, but they didn't. It's just kind of like a standard Atlas Dog. So I hope when they play this like next tour or the next leg of the tour that they really kind stretch it out a little bit more.
And so I know we deal with jams in here, like we're always ranking jams. But for me, the second set, like even though it's lacking in some of those jams, the flow of the songs from one to another and the energy that the crowd had and that I had, to be honest with you, uh, watching that show was incredible, and that's really kind of what does it. That's what does it for me. Maybe Bozeman, in my mind, suffers a little bit because again, we were watching it, getting the set list like handed to us through text, and couldn't watch it at the time, and maybe maybe that suffers for me a little bit, but. The energy and the flow from one song to another in that second set really did it for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and shout out to the American Woman that didn't get played in Louisville.
Oh my
B.
Just real quick, just a recap. Since we just did Bozeman and Louisville, I know I mentioned that I have my top two is Bozeman and Louisville. Well, I'd like a recap on what everybody had.
I've got Bozeman, Louisville as well.
Yep, Bozeman, Louisville, Portland, 1.
Louisville, Bozeman.
Louisville, Bozeman, Bend. Yep.
Well, that's attendance bias, though. So
yeah, so your opinion's invalidated.
All right.
Moving on to the last show of the tour.
Real quick, Ryan.
Yes.
I know we always talk about Kentucky shows. I just want to give a shout out to Colorado shows because I think that, in my personal opinion, and this is not
that's attendance bias.
Yeah. This is not residential bias. But Colorado gets the best Goose shows, and I think that if you actually look at the data, the math checks out.
And for those of you who don't know, Brian is a data man. He's got spreadsheets on spreadsheets on spreadsheets. Okay, as we cross the 2-hour mark here, let's get to the last show of the tour. We're gonna get to Pittsburgh. I mean, this show was a crazy night for me, and for other reasons than the music. But let's talk about the first set before we get into that. Silver Rising, Butter Rum, Turn Clouds, Redbird, Tumble. I mean, always nice to see Rum with Spuds on vocals. This is the first one in a long time where he's sang. I think he did. He screwed up one of the vocals at one point, but always good time, and seeing a nice little jam in here. Nothing crazy, but got out there a little bit, which is always good to see. And then the Pittsburgh, as it has been dubbed. Very, very happy to see where this one went. Just an absolutely blistering Redbird here. I love this. This is my number 10 jam of the tour. Makes my top 10 here. But really, really fantastic. And this Tumble is like molten lava. 15 minutes of just heat. Fantastic.
I have this Redbird as my number 5 jam of the year.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And it's hard for me to not think that the Straight Burden campaign didn't have something to do with just the continued kind of great. The band seems to really be putting something into this song, and trying to take it to another level. So that could just be a coincidence. But yeah, I mean,
when it's time.
As far as this first set, a strong but average awesome Tumble, and the Redbird's where it's at. I mean, it's high energy. It's pretty much pedal to the floor. Just great dance party jamming. Love this song. Keep it going. Can't wait to see the next one.
Yeah, I think you can tell they were starting to gain some confidence with some of these songs as they played them the third time, right? So that comfort of knowing, vocal changes like you were talking about, Brian, reworking them. Obviously, they sort of made some vocal changes to a couple other songs, but yeah, this version is just great. Listen to it again today. Super major, blissful, great peak. Full band, patience. It's what we wanted. We want sort of patient jams that do something, unlike some of, maybe your Arrow or something that just pushes.
Mm-hmm.
So fun set, but one highlight for sure.
Yeah.
What I like about this Redbird is that it stays in a lane and just drives. So it doesn't like really go out there and like do anything spectacular. I think I was saying this to Ryan offline. And it just like builds and builds and builds and I don't know. It's a different approach to jamming that I don't think they do too often, and I think that's why I like it so much. They're not like going type 2 and going bananas on this Redbird. It's 23 minutes of like staying in the lane of Redbird, which is is great, and I think we all agree that's like pretty awesome jam. Number 5 for Jive, which is like pretty. That's up there, and like I
That's
agree.
high
like,
praise.
Yeah, it's high praise.
Number 5 on the Jive Goose.
Yeah,
list.
man.
Like
I'm with
that's
you.
big.
I'm with you. That's spectacular. I don't think there's anything else to talk about this show.
Yeah.
So we should just
Hey.
like wrap up the pod.
Hey. You don't want you of all people should want to talk about me getting roasted by the band in the second set.
Yeah.
So second set, Rockdale, Seekers, American Woman, Empress, and Slow Ready. I mean, Rockdale's great, Seekers is great. Getting roasted by the band before American Woman was an absolute highlight for me. I mean, I started screaming hysterically. I would like to note that I did still keep up with the setlist thread. So I didn't get distracted from that. But I had, I think I lost a lot of my brain function for the duration of that song. I don't really remember what happened during the song. I do remember I was like laughing hysterically. But thank you, Goose, for showing me the error of my ways. You can play American Woman in the middle of the second set anytime, and I will be very happy about it.
The only thing about the the roast that I didn't like was I felt like Jeff clearly had more to say, and we'll never know how long he was going to go on. But also clearly Rick was like, nah, we're done.
Peter's the one that starts.
We're done talking about this motherfucker. Rick doesn't know anything about what's happened on Twitter.
Ryan,
So
your original opinion was correct. American Woman would have hurt the Louisville second set. So sorry,
worked better here.
I mean, it's 4 minutes. You can put it in any set. Like I don't know. It's like I'll take it anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm in the Gong Gang, so
yeah. I do want to mention also in the second set in Slow Ready, before the jam started, there was like 30 seconds or so of them doing some cool spacey stuff. And I would like to see that explored more. I think that's a really cool door that they've kind of opened a little bit here, to have kind of a different aspect to Slow Ready when that's already, I love that song so much, but having that possibility for that little spacey excursion before the dance party of that synth arpeggiator jam, really, really great. And Praise You, I don't know if I had listened to their cover of it before, but I was blown away by how well that song suits the band's sound. I think that's something that should be in the regular rotation for sure. And I mean, they could jam it.
So are you not going to talk about Empress, Ryan?
I mean, I
say the same thing.
This was actually my favorite Empress of the batch this run. So I'm rather shocked, but I understand that you're still in full glow of your.
Okay. I'm trying to go a little bit the other way on Empress after the beating I've taken from Neal recently about my opinions on 2021 Empresses.
What you like, man.
Yeah, I mean, hey man, do what you want to do. Like if that's your thing.
So in both, I believe in both the Slow Ready and the Empress, it's also notable that we continue to get the band is teasing, and I'm hearing it, and sometimes it's more subtle, but the band is definitely teasing the Divided Sky pause.
This is the first I'm hearing this come up.
Make it on the spreadsheet.
Let me add.
It could be a vibe and not a full tease.
Well, and they encourage the crowd
perhaps?
to do jazz hands during the Divided Sky pause tease and Empress. You can hear Rick saying that
He was
everybody's
insistent.
got to do it.
Yeah.
It was. I'm not. By not talking about the Empress at length, I mean it's not bad. Like, it's still phenomenal. Still one of my favorite Goose songs. But Perry,
But that American Woman.
yeah, are we good? Like, I think we've gone over 2 hours. I think we've beat the length for the bracket recap, which is pretty
Comprehensive
good.
coverage.
This is comprehensive, Kev. Yes, that is true. I would like to note for anybody interested on ryanstorm.substack.com at the time of this episode's release, you will be able to get access to all of our current preliminary Jam of the Year playlists on Nugs. Our rankings, we have put some time into them. They're of varying lengths, and the rankings are a little bit different. So looking forward to you guys checking that out. Let us know what you think, and feel free to share your rankings with us as well, both shows and jams. Anyone else got anything they want to add about this tour?
Yeah, I have one question. If you guys can answer it before we actually go into a serious topic. What is the chicken satay all about?
It's from Eau Claire.
Yeah, I know, but
someone made really good chicken satay or something.
Yeah, but why does chicken satay keep coming up? Like, it almost seems like code for like you're talking too much on stage. Has anyone else picked up on this?
No, it's some people, and I think they walked by a campsite was the story that I saw. Tried some bomb chicken satay. These people that knew about it have kept referencing it. They said it in Madison when we were there.
Right.
Yeah, and I think another show or two, but Ben loved the fucking chicken satay.
Listen,
I don't know.
when
It feels like there's something more to it than that to me. I feel like it's like the second somebody starts like talking a little bit too much on stage, which Ben did when he was shouting out the chicken satay in Eau Claire, then somebody's like, "Hey, is this chicken satay?"
Is chicken satay the new shut the fuck up?
Yeah, I think it is. I think chicken satay is the new shut the fuck up. And like,
hey, chicken satay, Jesse.
Oh, amazing.
Okay.
I'm glad we talked about that.
Yes. All right. Well, so what do we think is coming on the next leg of the tour, in which I will finally gain some credibility to my opinions? Shout out to all the people on social media who have told me that I shouldn't be talking about Goose because I've never seen them live.
Well,
joke's on you.
I
I'm hopefully
have something
seeing
to
them
say to those
6
people.
times. What?
I have something to say to those people.
Which is?
Chicken satay, motherfucker.
Chicken satay, motherfucker.
So,
well,
yeah.
We got.
You can't. Ryan didn't go to shows because Ryan didn't want to go to shows.
Ryan went to shows because Ryan hasn't gone to shows because there has been a closed border in between him
Fucking
and
pandemic,
the shows.
man.
Yeah.
But to honestly and earnestly answer your question, Ryan, I'm looking for more of what we saw in this first tour. But look, I think these guys are going to play a ton of shows this year. So I'm actually my optimism is pointing toward some more things continue to get polished. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see some more new songs trickle out. I don't think we're going to see anything like what we saw in the first leg of this tour. But I would expect more new songs. I'd expect heavy play on the new songs that have been debuted. I'd expect to see more kind of unexpected non-jammers as well as songs that do get jammed. And then hopefully, lastly, and maybe most hopefully, some more kind of dark jams like we saw in Wisteria and a couple others. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think that I just looked 11 shows. Goose Miss is in a week. That's 3 set. The biggest thing for me with the 3-set format, like they did at New Year's, when they take that approach, it's 3 shortened sets. Like the second set in Chicago was 48 minutes, 51 minutes, something really short. So it'd be cool if they challenge themselves to really do something fun there. I think that show is going to be unique. And then 10 shows sort of in a tour type approach. And I'll be at 2. I'm going to go to the Philadelphia shows, so I'm really excited for those. Yeah, songs, set list configuration, I think cleaning it up. I'd like to see, of those 11 shows, like 3 or 4 like very good shows this tour. I think we didn't really get complete shows so much that first leg, so bar two of them. So yeah, but very excited.
Yeah, I think you guys absolutely nailed it on what to hope for and what we can expect. Not just in this upcoming leg, but later this year. And I'm excited to, reconvene a month from now and talk about, the next leg. Really looking forward to that discussion, especially when I can finally have attendance bias when I'm talking about shows. So I know Neal and I are going to be at Goosemas next week. I'm also going to be in Washington, D.C., Charlotte, Royal Oak, and hopefully Cleveland. I'm going to have some nice, we move through stormy weather slaps, so come find me, say hi. It's going to be fun.
Kev's going to be with me. Kev's going to be with me for Goosemas.
Yeah, we're hanging out in Salida, man, up in the mountains.
In real life.
Yeah,
you guys can play pickleball too after?
I ain't got the knees for that, D.
Oh, that's right.
All right. Well, anyone else got any other Goose related?
Hey, stay tuned for some more content. We need to talk about the bracket at some point. We need to talk about this Born video at some point. And then we're going to have more shows to talk about at some point. So yeah, look forward to a possibly a 4 to 5 hour episode coming up.
We're actually gonna hold off on our second leg of Winter Tour recap until the end of the bracket. We're gonna do a mega episode where we talk about every bracket matchup that happened and the whole second leg of tour.
There'll be camping provided at this next episode.
Right.
Best 6 hours you've ever spent.
We'll start at dusk and end at dawn.
There we go. The long episode.
Right. That's right. It'll be the big Cypress of podcasts.
Exactly. And while tour is happening, for some fun analysis and look at the shows while they're going on, check out, if you're not aware, the Great Beyond Goose Day Tuesday lives over on Osiris. That's 12:30 Eastern every Tuesday while Goose is on tour. Greg and Bruce hop on, and they also do giveaways. I know, Neal, you won some tickets to see them in August. And I would like to take this opportunity to use the platform for #JusticeForJive on his trivia. We believe in you. D,
you guys
unfortunately beat him out for it.
You'll be happy to know the shirt has never arrived. So we'll see.
It will. I have faith. Well, I think this, we're well past the 2 hour mark. Thank you. If anybody's still listening, thank you for sticking with us through this.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Are we? Let us know. Feel free to tweet at all or any of us about any opinions you agreed with, disagreed with. Start some more conversations. We love talking about Goose, if it wasn't apparent by the length of this episode. Thank you for being here for this first inaugural episode of Always Almost There. We are looking forward to many more to come in the future, and we'll see you next time.